Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Bumblebee movie Voyager class Cybertronian Starscream. This has been a character that I have been waiting forever for Hasbro to announce, and with his announcement I'm almost certain that Soundwave and Shockwave are just around the corner. Another reason why I was so excited for this character is because he's actually our first live action movie Studio Series figure to be released in a very long time, and I'm just absolutely thrilled to be taking a look at him here today. Now before we take a look at, of course, the main figure himself, a few things that I just want to mention at the beginning of this review is that unlike my initial presumptions, this character here is indeed an entirely new sculpt and does not borrow any pieces from the Studio Series Blitzwing. That was something that I did mention in my Studio Series Blitzwing review, and when this figure was officially revealed, I did state in my thoughts and analysis that he did reuse some parts. However, with closer inspection, I can assure you that he is an entirely new sculpt, and something which is also worth noting is that this figure has the most parts count I have seen on a Studio Series Voyager class figure, so I am pretty certain that we are going to be getting multiple repaints of this character into Thundercracker and of course Skywarp. Taking a look here at the details, you can see that Hasbro have done a terrific job in capturing his head sculpt from the Bumblebee movie. Of course, the majority of the Bumblebee movie character designs did take heavy inspiration from their G1 counterparts, and I think that overall the designs turned out potentially the best that we'd seen from the live action films in a very long time. The sculpt work on this head sculpt is impeccable. You can see here the eyes, nose and mouth clearly defined with a ton of sculpted in surface detail. We also have here a metallic silver in order to amplify the sculpt, and the eyes, unlike some of the initial images that were shown, are indeed painted in the correct position. We of course do get some amazing sculpt work going along here for the main helmet design, and this has been completely decked out in a really nice glossy black paint. As we take a look here at the intakes, you can see that the interior detail on these once again has come out tremendous, and I love the silver highlights that we do get going on here. This figure has been painted and sculpted amazingly well. Taking a look here at this upper cockpit region, this was one of the areas that I believed was carried over from Blitzwing. However, it is indeed an entirely new sculpt, and when I do bring Blitzwing out later on for a comparison, you'll be able to see some of the differences there. We also do have some really nice details here for the inner shoulders, and just in general, the entire colour scheme is a very nice homage to his original G1 counterpart. We do get the null rays which are stored on the wings, however we'll go into more details regarding them when we cover the accessories. The wings too have also got some fantastic details, and I think that the overall sculpt as well as proportions to these have come out really well. You can see how this entire region here does indeed stack up, looking very accurate to what we did see in the movie. And then taking a look here for the forearms of Starscream, I am a fan of the sculpt work that we've got going on here for the bicep, the red paintwork, and I love how they have cast the outer section in a blue plastic, and then when you turn to the inner section of the arm, this has been sculpted beautifully and has all been picked out in an amazing metallic silver. As we take a look here for the torso region of Starscream, you can see how we've got some nice sculpt work as well as paintwork going on here. This is indeed a little bit more of a pliable material than compared to the solid hard plastic that we did get with a Blitzwing. We do get some additional components such as these pistons here, which I think is a really nice touch. And then taking a look here for the thighs, the mechanical detail does continue and in my opinion looks tremendous. Definitely one of the most detailed Studio Series figures that I've had the privilege to handle. The interior section here to the legs too has also been detailed and sculpted beautifully. We do get an asymmetrical design due to the nature of the transformation. However, once again we'll delve more into that later on in the review. I do like how they've tried their best to minimize hollow spacing by extending the mushroom pegs, and these two have also been sculpted really well. The figure in general is one of the best figures that I've had the privilege to handle in quite some time. We do have the thrusters which have been sculpted here on the sides of the legs, and these two look very accurate to their appearance from the show. And then taking a look here for the feet, you can see how we do get the blue highlight around this section, and overall just a really nicely done figure. As far as articulation is concerned, we do get a ball joint here at the head which can look left to right as well as can look up and down. However, when you do this, you do slightly apply some pressure to the ball joint, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that all that much. The shoulders here can rotate left to right as well as of course hinge out to the sides. Full 360 rotation here at the bicep as well as a little past 90 only on a single hinge joint. Unfortunately, we don't get any form of wrist rotation. However, we do get some waist rotation which can rock side to side. The legs here can kick forwards that far as well as can kick back to that far before they are slightly restricted due to the wings. They can also hinge out to the sides on some very soft ratchet joints. Full 360 rotation here at the thigh as well as a 90-degree bend there at the knee. And then taking a look here at the foot, due to transformation these can pivot forwards and backwards as well as of course rock side to side to a tremendous extent. So overall, as far as articulation, sculpt work and paintwork is concerned, I think that this is one of the best Voyager figures from the Studio Series that has been released so far. Now as far as accessories are concerned, we do get a blaster here for Starscream. Now upon first glance this will look as if though it is just just a direct carryover from Blitzwing. However, once again, I can assure you that this has been modified in order to fit Starscream, and just to show you here for a comparison, you can see how significantly larger it is when compared here to Blitzwing, and you can also see how the design has been slightly modified in order to accommodate a port for a flight stand. I think that is a great attention to detail and really does show to me that Hasbro do care about their collectors, as this does become the underside of Starscream's jet mode, which of course we'll delve more into when we do get him transformed. But this is indeed a new piece. You can also see how it is missing some of the details that we did get here for Blitzwing, and the placement of the peg is indeed in an entirely new place. So once again, this is an entirely new sculpt. We do get two null rays. Now, in my opinion, these are a little bit of a letdown. Whilst matching their on-screen appearance, I wish that Hasbro could have taken some creative license and could have found a way to install some ports here on the top of the biceps in order to perfectly recreate his original G1 appearance. Unfortunately, they are only intended to store here on the wings, and whilst there is a tab here, they don't really lock all that securely into the bicep. And once again, this certainly isn't a look that I'm sure many collectors will want displayed on their shelves, but as far as accuracy to the movie is concerned, I can't really fault them too much, as their placement does represent what we do see on screen. Something which is worth noting in regards to the blaster is that unfortunately Starscream here doesn't really hold the weapon all that well, and that is mainly down to the fact that this here is solely included, in my opinion, in order to help aid his Tetrajet alt mode, as the Seekers from the B movie did have this huge blaster on their underside. However, personally, as we never really see Starscream with any type of handheld weapon in the movie, I am able to give this an easy pass. It's just something that I thought was worth mentioning, and whilst we're here talking on the topic of hands, I just want to appreciate the exceptional looking sculpt work that Hasbro have applied to the fingers here of Starscream. Once again, this is one of the best hand sculpts that I have seen on a Studio Series figure so far. And here for some size comparisons, here we have Starscream compared next to Blitzwing. Now, not only can you see the drastic difference in terms of the sculpt, but you can also see the significant increase in terms of the mass when comparing Starscream to Blitzwing. Starscream is so much bulkier when compared to Blitzwing, and when actually handling these two figures, he feels double the weight of what we got here with Blitzwing. Now, as you can see, whilst they do look very similar in terms of their design, which to me is more of a critique as far as the movie designs are concerned, they are indeed completely new sculpts. So taking a closer look here at the cockpit region, you can see how the detailing there is completely different here for the Starscream than compared to the Blitzwing. I also initially believed that the crutch plate was the same for Starscream as it was on Blitzwing, but you can see here that the sculpt work on that too is also completely different. This figure really is an entirely new sculpt. The thighs are different, the forearms are different, everything about this figure is just completely different. So with purchasing this figure, you are not getting a reuse of Blitzwing, and something which I actually believe is superior on Starscream than compared to Blitzwing is that he does indeed have the thrusters on the sides of the legs, which Blitzwing here is unfortunately missing. So out of the two, this is definitely the superior release, and if you can only pick up one for your collection, I would highly recommend that you go here with Starscream. And here for a Studio Series Bumblebee movie size comparison, here we have Starscream compared to all of the Bumblebee movie characters with the exception of Cliffjumper, and you can see that, as mentioned earlier on in the review, he is a really big Voyager figure. He towers over all of the deluxe figures, and when comparing him here next to Optimus Prime, once again, he is bigger not only in terms of his height, but in terms of the overall mass and plastic used. And here for one final comparison, here we have the Bumblebee movie Starscream compared to next to the Earthrise and Siege versions, and as mentioned throughout this review, you can really see here how much inspiration Bumblebee movie Starscream takes from his original G1 predecessors, and I think all three of these figures here look exceptional, and I'm pretty sure that many of you will agree with me in saying that this is the Starscream design that we should have gotten from the original 07 movie. Turning to the transformation, to begin with, you are going to want to remove the null rays here on each of the wings. What we can then do is take this section and bring this up and over, and then ratchet this around. Of course, come here to this side and repeat the same process, so just unpeg that and of course hinge this section down. We can then take both of the wings and just compress those so that we are left with something that looks along the lines of this. Turn your attention here to the torso, take these pieces and these will clip nice and securely into place. We can then take the wrists and these are going to rotate into the hollow cavities. Take the bicep, rotate it around so that the front is now facing the back, and of course repeat the same process here. Turn your attention here down to the lower section of the legs, and now a word of caution that I would certainly look out for is that unfortunately these pieces here are held on by a very thin piece of blue plastic, and these are indeed indented so that they do have soft ratchet joints, and you can see how this has stressed, and this is after I have steamed them in order to try and reduce the amount of stress shown. And you can also see on this one it definitely looks a lot worse than what we got got here on that side. So a word of caution would just be to take your time with this and maybe file down the soft ratchet joints that we do get here on the plastic. But to open this up, you're just going to want to hinge this here, bring this section here up and over, and of course repeat the same process. So just ratchet that there over the top. What I then recommend doing is taking the feet, compress those into the hollow cavities, rotate this section here around, and of course repeat the same process. You're then going to want to take this, bring this section here over, and you can see how we do have a tab that it will peg into this slot, so snap that into place, bring this section here down, and that will indeed conceal a hollow space. So just snap that in there, and then this section here will come up and over as well. Repeat the same process, so bring this section here up and tab that into place, bring this down, hinge this section here out, just leave the legs in an orientation which looks something along the lines of this. We can then turn our attention here to this section and hinge this piece up. Now this is indeed clipped into place very securely via a slot and a tab, and something which is worth noting is that unlike Blitzwing, the arms are indeed on a separate piece, so will not bring the entire upper chest with them when they are risen up. So it is nice to see them perfect the engineering here for Starscream. You're going to want to bring this section here all the way to the back. We can then take this section, and this is really where the transformation does begin to come together, as right now this really doesn't look like anything special, but you're then going to want to hinge this here down just like so, and you can see the Tetrajet beginning to take form. We can then open this up, take the nose cone and snap this into place, and it will clip in there really securely. What you'll then want to do is come here to this section, ensure this is risen up, and there is a slight hollow space that you're going to want to align this up perfectly with, that we can then just begin to take the legs and snap all of this nice and securely into place. You can see two tabs here and here that will peg into two slots here and here. So bring this over and of course snap that into place just like so. Bring that whole assembly down. We can then take these pieces, these will clip together, and then we will turn our attention here to the underside, rotate these pieces around, of course repeat the same process, disengage the shoulder joint, hinge this around, and of course come here to this side, hinge this around also. Take the forearms, these will compress into these cavities, straighten this one up and repeat the same process. So just orientate that around accordingly. Take these two panels, snap them into place, bring this down. Take the wings, snap those down as well. Just bring the fin up and take this panel and hinge this there to the back. We can then bring in our null ray blaster, and you can see a huge peg here as well as two tiny tabs. These are going to peg into this slot and these two slots here at the back. So just bring that into place, snap that nice and securely. We can then take the null rays, and this time you're going to want to use the tab, as this will peg into this slot. Just snap that in there. And of course repeat the exact same process here for the opposite side. And here we have Starscream fully transformed up into what is, in my opinion, a really awesome and very movie accurate looking Cybertronian Tetrajet alt mode. Now, despite what some may say, I personally believe that the jet mode here is actually fairly accurate to what we saw in the opening scene of the movie. Of course, we only really saw Starscream for a very brief amount of time, and least of all here in his jet mode, so it's therefore incredibly hard to tell as to whether or not this is spot on to what we saw in the movie. However, comparing this here to some concept art, I'd say that Hasbro did a pretty good job. Now, taking a look here at the jet mode, of course, it is a little more stylized than compared to your traditional G1 Tetrajet style of alt mode, but as mentioned earlier on, as they are going for a little bit more of a live action movie aesthetic, I think it's come out rather nicely. You can see the Decepticon insignias here on the top of the wings. I think the sculpt work here has come out really well with the red stripes. I also love the color palette between the lighter shades of grey, the red, the blues, as well as the orange cockpit. As mentioned when we took a look at the accessories, the blaster does become an essential part of the jet mode, as it does hold together the lower section as well as becomes the main blaster here, which is why I was able to easily forgive its lack of integration in the robot mode, as I think here for jet mode it more than makes up for it. You can also see the null rays which have been accurately placed, and the sculpt work too on them have come out really well. As we take a look here from the back, this is probably the ugliest angle, but as mentioned earlier on in the review, it is near enough impossible to tell whether or not this is accurate to the movie, as we never really got a great look of it, especially from the back. You can see the thrusters here have got a great placement, and then as we take a look here from a bird's eye perspective, this is truly where I believe this jet shines. You can see we've got the cockpit there with some grey paint apps from the outer section. We do indeed get a smaller blaster which has been sculpted. The front nose cone is made out of a little bit more of a pliable, flexible blue plastic, but overall I think that too has come out really well. You can see some nice panel lining detailing, as well as the fin there which has got some nice paintwork going on for it, as well as sculpt work. And overall for me, I don't have nowhere near as much of an issue with this as I know many collectors do have. have. I think this is a really nice representation, and overall is just a nicely done figure. Now, as far as comparisons are concerned, here we have Bumblebee movie Starscream compared next to Siege Starscream's Tetrajet Alt Mode. Now, of course, this design here is a little bit more stylized when compared to the traditional G1 design, and it is here that you can see that Starscream once again is a very substantial looking Voyager. He towers over the Siege version of Starscream in pretty much every single way, length as well as height, so you are definitely getting your bang for your buck with this particular Voyager in my personal opinion. And so, some final thoughts. Overall, I believe Hasbro did a commendable job in capturing Starscream's appearance from the Bumblebee movie and implementing it here into a plastic format. Upon comparing what we did see of Starscream from the film, I think the robot mode is pretty much spot on. The paintwork as well as the sculpt work has come out really well. The figure is very well articulated, and as mentioned throughout the duration of this review, he has a tremendous parts count, making him, in my opinion, one of the biggest Voyagers, not only in terms of height but in terms of mass that we have gotten from this line so far. The transformation, of course, as this is a movie figure, is a little bit more complex. However, I think it's fun to go back and forth from each mode, and whilst the jet mode may not to be everyone's liking, it definitely does resemble what we did see in the film. So as far as that is concerned, once again, I don't have many critiques. I think he comes with a good range of accessories. Whilst I maybe would have liked to have seen them taking some creative license in regards to the null rays, I still think they are a nice inclusion, and overall, if you are a fan of the Bumblebee movie, then Starscream here is a figure you are going to have to add to your collection. I really hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below, and also be sure to let me know on what you think of the review and whether or not you will be adding him to your collection. I thank you all for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.